The simple cul-de-sac is one of the greatest innovations of North American suburbia. By blocking through traffic, you create a residential street that's safer and calmer for kids and that's quieter and more community-oriented for adults. The suburbs have the advantage of being built like this from the start, but can we retrofit older cities with some of these same principles? This is Augier Square. A few years ago, it looked like this. Then it got a temporary street closure. Then construction started on a permanent plaza. After a few months of work, construction has now wrapped up for the season. In the spring, they're going to finish it off with benches and more greenery.
So my name is Augier Square. I'm a landscape architect. I work at Projet Paysage, and I was the design lead on Carré Augier, which you can see behind me, and the whole traffic calming project that was related to it. There was a huge drainage problem in the area. So the surrounding buildings were getting flooded. Combined with that, there was the issue that, cars were driving rather fast through the area. There's a school nearby, there's a park nearby, there's a lot of kids and families around that move through this area. Then there was a pilot project where they closed down the through traffic, where they opened up the middle of this space and they had an artist come in and do paintings, and they put some furniture. They took away a bit of parking, and then they let the residents use it. And then there was another public consultation. There was sort of like a touch point afterwards to see what's your feedback, what do you think, what did you like, what did you not like. We took all the information that the city gave us. We took all the info from the public consultations, and we were like, okay, now we got to figure out how we design this space to meet the design objectives of the city, the technical aspect of water management, and the results of talking to the people and saying this is what we want from our public space. Number one was keeping the basements from flooding. Secondly, well, it is definitely it's an area for people to move about, right? Like this is a busy circulation corridor during school time or to go to the park. Even though we ended up with a project that we think is quite aesthetic, quite pleasant, it's a fun place to be in. Essentially, it started out with form follows function, right? So it was like a retention basin and the need to connect these two important sidewalks. Why cul-de-sacs are so popular in suburban areas, it's because you don't have through traffic. So the public space, the street, is yours. It's appropriable. It's your local street's public space, which you can use. That was exactly the intention with this project. You can still drive right up to your house. You can still walk across the neighborhood, and you can still bike across the neighborhood. You just can't drive across the neighborhood. I think the biggest difference between a cul-de-sac, which you'll find more in suburban areas, and a modal filter that's in the urban fabric, as we see here, is that it's still comfortable in human scale for people as they cross it on foot or on bike. The historical photos and the info we got from the city is that this used to be a turnaround for tramways. So Montreal used to have this extensive tram network, and this was one of the areas that the tram would come in, turn around, and move out. We tried as much as possible to get in Dutch-style continuous sidewalks into the project. I'm actually kind of proud. It's really just a continuous sidewalk. It's over there on Bélanger. It's the first continuous sidewalk that I know of in Montreal that's on a slightly busier street. It's not flashy. I'm not gonna take a picture of it and put it on my wall, but I'm really proud of it because in the end, it's a lot safer and more comfortable and more ergonomic for people walking on Bélanger to cross this street. I really hope it means that we get more continuous sidewalks because, like I said, I live in the neighborhood. My kids live in the neighborhood with me. We walk around, we bike around, and making it safer for everyone and more comfortable for everyone is really important to me and to Projet Paysage. Street narrowings, we narrowed the street as much as possible whenever we were crossing. We daylighted as much as we could. And just generally speaking, we tried to make sure that there were objects framing the street so that you get the impression of speed. Even if you're just driving 25 kilometers an hour, you feel like you're going a lot faster because you've got these trees, this vegetation, these bollards, these markings all around you. We literally went around and we visited some projects and parks. I knew of L'Île au Volcan. I live nearby. I go with my kids. We went to, there's this nice little park downtown by the Place Hydro-Québec. What can we copy? What can we copy and improve slightly, incrementally? I knew of this place near the Olympic Stadium where they had sort of done continuous sidewalks, but not quite. And that project was actually hugely important because it helped me show the city that you have done this before. Let's just tweak it slightly so that the sidewalks are absolutely even and level so that people don't have to drop down to the street level. All these previous projects that are in Montreal that are available to go see and photograph and show the city and said, you did this, it's great, let's continue doing this. So they're really important to help these kinds of projects, right? Because if we were doing this in a desert, in a city that didn't have any other projects of the kind, we couldn't have done half the stuff we did here. So some of the concerns really were the normal ones, right? So people were afraid they were going to lose parking. We didn't take away a lot of parking. But that was not our decision, right? That was the borough saying, okay, we heard you. There will be a bit of parking removed. There were people who were skeptical of the water management. Is this really going to help or not? I believe the engineers. They tell me it's going to fix the problem. Perfect. I'll believe them. Through the public consultations, I think I had a pretty good understanding of the type of life people around here live, the type of life they want to live, and the type of public space they wanted to support the kind of life they want to live. It's a calm public space that's not meant to draw people from all over the city. It's meant to be a green oasis where there's going to be a bench that's coming eventually, but it won't generate huge amounts of noise, and it's complementary to the infrastructure they already have nearby they can walk to. From a water management issue, we could not afford to put a impermeable surface there. And at some point we said, well, why don't we just build a footbridge? A slightly elevated footbridge that you can see through, and because this whole square is meant to store water. It's not a public gathering place per se, it's meant to transit through the area. I know I would love to live right in front of this and just have my kids go in front and just play hopscotch or just throw the ball or just sit on the bench that's coming here and eat a lollipop or whatever, and I can be on my balcony or in my living room and I can have an eye on them. It's not just a park, it's not just traffic calming, really. These sorts of projects the borough and the city of Montreal in general are willing to do, they have this huge impact on people's lives. And I know it because I live it. I live in the city and I benefit from the positive impacts of all these little projects that the city does. Yeah, that was great. We just got to meet some residents that came over to chat with us, and it's a really tight-knit community here. If you look at the way that the buildings are laid out, they're all facing the square. There's always eyes on the street. I think once it's finished and warm weather returns a little bit and people are allowed to occupy the space, it's probably going to become a community meeting space. It's already naturally laid out so that you all naturally are facing this space. There's a sort of synergy that I'm sure is going to come out. I'm sure I'm going to come here next summer with my family, and there's going to be like a neighborhood gathering. I'm sure of it. So I think that's interesting. We just got a small glimpse of it by meeting some of the people that live around here.
We didn't cover it in the interview, but Montreal's large fire trucks were a limitation on how narrow they could go with the street. This is another one of those projects that makes Montreal such a cool city to cover for urbanism, and we're especially looking forward to seeing the final project when they finish it in the spring. They're addressing a drainage problem that a lot of dense cities have, while at the same time giving people in the city some of the comforts of suburbia. Whenever we highlight projects like this, we get pushback from people who perceive it as an unfair war on cars to restrict through traffic on a residential street. They see it as a fundamental restriction on freedom of movement. But we can't emphasize it enough. This is the same concept as a cul-de-sac in suburbia, except that this is more nicely designed and that it has an exception for pedestrians. People don't tend to see suburbs as restricting movement so blatantly because they're built like that from the start. But that's exactly what they do, and suburbanites understandably love cul-de-sacs. We very much hope that projects like this are the future of a lot more residential streets in cities. Thanks for watching through to the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and a special thanks to our supporters on Patreon.